Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our continuing discussions on climate change and agriculture and energy.
Yep.
So today we got a great topic. It's about carbon footprints. Carbon footprints, and you probably heard that term bantered about. How do you feel about your carbon footprint these days?
Oh, it's like my way. It's a little above average.
Yeah, me too. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so let's talk about what a carbon footprint is. I mean, what does that mean exactly? If you say carbon footprint, how would you distill that down?
The amount of carbon dioxide that you generate through your activities. So a lot of it could be shopping or, you're traveling around, just all these activities you do. In some ways, you're indirectly giving off carbon dioxide. So that would be like your footprint,
Yeah.
Power you use in your home is another example, things like that.
And it's a good way to measure how much, because everybody gives off carbon, and so they distill it down into what's your footprint. Now there's footprints for the world, and there's footprints for countries and industry and sectors and individuals and families, and there's all different ways you can look at it. But what's the average carbon emission per person? Do you know what that is? Or I don't know if I know what that is.
I think it's around between 3 and 4 tons of carbon dioxide per person.
Per year, right?
Per year, yeah. I think it's around 3 or 4. It's something like that.
Okay. So that's a worldwide average per person, you're saying. It's about 4 tons per year.
Yeah.
Per person.
Per person, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. So some countries are lower and some countries are higher. We're obviously much higher. But there's a way to calculate that per person. You can go on. There's plenty of what they call the carbon footprint calculators and stuff. Have you ever used one of those?
Yeah, I did that the night before we did this video.
I did mine about a year ago, just the last time I did mine. But yeah, tell me about yours first. What did you find out?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so as a family, we have a family of 4. Looked like we produce around 72 tons of carbon dioxide for our whole family per year.
72 tons total.
Which is about the average of what it was in 2018 for the U.S. But now the U.S. has actually gone down, so we're above average. Looking at it, we were very high in the transportation sector of it.
Like a lot of people are in the U.S.,
We have a car for about each person, like the kids and the wife and I, we have a car, each one of us. So mine was a little high too this last couple of years because we talked about this in one of our videos, but I did a project for Waili, but it required me to travel 100 miles a couple
every
times
day.
a week.
Almost, yeah.
Couple miles a
that
week.
kills
to go.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
right
so
there,
that there I was already, increasing my carbon emissions pretty high
Right.
by traveling, going to Phoenix, Maricopa every week and stuff from Tucson.
Yeah, so they'll do it. I had to go a long ways for my work like that. I had to travel about 100 miles a day, but I'd carpool. I try to carpool when I could because I fly a few times a year. So, I think if you fly more than like twice, it goes way up or something. And so it's hard to get if you fly, for your work once in a while. So I would ride I kept riding my bike throughout my career to work even sometimes, even though it was quite a ways. I'd try to do it like at least a couple times a week or something. Just because I wanted to, to be responsible, but also be healthy too. It doesn't hurt to get a double whammy right there. So anyway.
Yeah, we have a grocery store across our street, and we go there every once in a while, but it's a little more expensive than the other ones. So we tend to travel to the other stores to get our food.
If you're going to get a big volume, that's probably not bad. But if you just needed something simple, maybe just walk into the store. Is a good thing to do. I've done that too because I don't live too far. I walk to the same one. All right. There's a bunch of different calculators out there though. They all use different factors. Like the questions I got asked was how much trash did they ask you about how much trash you throw away?
No, okay. This one was pretty simple. Yeah, I was just in those 4 areas, but other ones do that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if you put out a lot of waste per week, in the landfills, that's another factor. And that was the one I had was that plus travel and electricity and stuff and cars. I did pretty well because on those things. But the trash one was interesting because it says, well, how much volume of trash do you put out? And I've always been trying to do pretty good with that. I do a lot of recycling, not just put recycling in the recycling bin and let the company pick it up because sometimes they just throw it in the landfill too. Mm-hmm. But I'd wash mine out, and I'll take it to a place that actually wants it and buys it, and they'll use it for stuff like the metal and the plastic and stuff. And I'll do that. I do a lot of composting, probably like you do, of food waste, and plus I feed a lot of our food waste to our animals, chickens. I was going to say, everybody should get some chickens. because that's, I know everybody can't raise chickens, but they're easy to do, and they eat all those scraps up, all the food, and then they make fertilizer.
And then you get eggs.
Then
too.
you get eggs, and you
Yeah.
get, and then you can what we do is we take all that fertilizer and plant our garden and that, and we'll grow more food and stuff. And so it's a good way to be efficient, I think. Anyway,
That definitely is a sustainable solution. That's a really
we'll
good
talk
example.
about, maybe we'll have a thing on chickens
Yeah,
one day.
no, that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good point to bring up.
So we have a pretty low. I did pretty well on the trash part, where I don't waste too many things, So there's not, but yeah, anyway. It's fun to go and calculate what your footprint is and kind of see where you can improve on it. So a lot of it is, you can say, hey, everybody should probably do that once a year and say, hey, what can I do to make my life a little more efficient? Anyway, so well, let's talk about the bigger things. Okay, that's an individual sort of thing everybody can do, a family can do. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's move on up. There's the world. How much does the world produce in 1 year? If we go right up on top.
Yeah, that's a good question. Worldwide, we produce around 50 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents, and we're bringing up the term carbon dioxide equivalents because of that amount, only about between like 75 to 80% is carbon dioxide. So that's why they made up this term carbon equivalents.
Right.
So now the U.S. itself, okay, so the world is around 50 or 60 billion tons per year, and the U.S. is about we're talking about 5 and 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year now.
Yeah, let's talk about countries then, because I know the U.S. is always getting the blame. Okay, so yes, the biggest one is China, obviously, the biggest emitter of carbon, but they got the most people. So so if you reduce it down to per capita, then China is doing pretty well. I mean, right now they're the most rapidly increasing country in the world. I mean, they're the biggest polluter right now, but they're also the most rapidly increasing. And they're doing a lot of good things though, but I think they just have a lot of challenges. But they're burning a lot of coal. I mean, they're increasing their coal production every single week. So it's that's something I think they probably could use help with, is maybe technology for cleaner burning coal factories or something like that, or maybe alternative ways of producing power. Is that the U.S. is one of the only countries that has reduced their carbon emissions over the last 15 years or so, 15 to 20 years. We've actually reduced ours, and we've reduced it by about, I'd say about 20%. It's because we used to be about 6 billion tons per year. Now we're 5 billion, around 5 billion. And they estimate around 2022. 2021, it's a little over 5, I think. So there's some good news story. And the reason why we're going down is because we've switched over most of our coal burning power plants to natural gas, and we've added some solar and wind as well. So that's helped us reduce quite a bit over the long haul, and so that's a good thing. Now, so the U.S. isn't the biggest carbon emitter in the world. It's the second largest one, but it's not. Also, you'd be surprised, it's not the biggest per capita one in the world either. It's there's about a dozen other countries that per capita emit more than the U.S. does. So, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be a little more responsible and lead the way for trying to reduce emissions worldwide, because we certainly can do that. But a lot of times we say, it's all the U.S. U.S. is the biggest and the baddest and the worst. Well, we're almost the biggest, the baddest, and the worst. We're not quite the one. But what is interesting is that so the other countries have gone. The worst. What's the worst country per capita, you think? Just this is a little trivia.
We were talking about. I think it's an island nation, because those island nations require a lot of services and things like that to bring all their goods into the island, and I think it'd be one of those.
That's close. Yeah, there is a island nation that's so we're like 14 tons per capita. A nation like an island nation in the Caribbean, I won't name it, but it's around 27 to almost 30, tons per capita. So, but yeah, no, the worst one is one of the countries in the Middle East, and a lot of countries in the Middle East are that way. They probably need help with their processes for oil and gas and some of the industry that they run, but they're really, really high, and so one of them was at the World. One of them was what hosted the World Cup, and and so I didn't see any protests out there. But anyway, that's that's neither here nor there.
Point.
But
that's probably why it went way up, because just doing the World Cup emits a lot of.
Well, this is from 2021,
oh, okay,
so yeah, you can't blame it on the World Cup. Anyway, all right. So there's a little trivia for you there. All right. So anyway,
so I've also heard that a lot of the South American and European countries are usually between 5 and 10 tons per capita of carbon dioxide, which is pretty good. It's about the average. It's not down, at 4 or below, but India is much lower. But as a worldwide contributor, they're kind of up there too.
So if you look at their numbers per capita, they're pretty low. They got a lot of people there, but so just like China, that's a big advantage for them. But not advantage, but when you look at a per capita situation, so they were down to like 2 or 3 tons per person per year. That's really good, right? So all these countries are increasing rapidly their emissions. I mean, extremely rapidly. Great. All right. Well, until next time, we're the Climate Change Brothers, and we're signing off.